Cesar Rodriguez and Dave Olander and Ivan Figueroa for what they've done to contribute to this meeting. We've really worked on it together as a team, and I want to thank all of you in particular for giving up your Thursday evening. Over the last several months, a group of us, 20 to 40 people basically, Sea Island and St. Simons Island residents have met several times to share our thoughts about some of the key issues that we feel our islands are facing. At these meetings, the group identified a number of common concerns. The island's tree cover, one of our most important natural assets, needs to be protected and extended. Secondly, there seems to be a lack of concern and protection in general for the small town lifestyle, the ambiance, the natural environment that makes these islands so unique. We lack an infrastructure such as parking, roads, and amenities to handle residents, as well as a large number of visitors. With respect to scale and compatibility, the look and feel of the islands can be changed significantly by growth and development. We need intelligent, long-term development of the islands. The question we will discuss tonight is not whether Glenn County runs a good operation. We recognize that counties are limited in their ability to work at a detailed level. Their scope of work is running a county, not a city. And our speakers will elaborate on this difference. We welcome Ivan Figueroa.
So in 2006, 2005, while we were putting together what eventually became the city of Johns Creek, I went through personally and said, you know, somebody's going to have to run this thing, should I, shouldn't I? And had a conversation with my wife and my family, and you know, the eventual conclusion is yes, you've got a little bit of background, go ahead and help do that. And so I was a part of the city council actually up until this past January, and my wife moved here when the house was completed in Halloween of 2012, so you know, I absolutely recognize I'm a newbie. Part of the discussion, you know, you hear people talking in the hallway. Part of the discussion has been that this whole movement is, you know, new people who are pushing this on you. Those of you who have been here for a good amount of time, you've seen it before. You saw it in 2004, you saw it in 1996, and I bet you had it prior to that. So please, as the conversations go on well beyond this evening, let's not get into personalities. It's not about personalities. It's not about me and my family. It's not about Glenn County. That's one thing we want to stress, is we're not here to bash Glenn County. A strong St. Simons Island and a weak Glenn County helps no one. What we want to be able to achieve is a balance that allows St. Simons to do the local stuff, to manage, you know, the local infrastructure, and allow the county to work on the big picture that counties are supposed to do. You know, jobs for the other. We just want you to have the ability to make eventually a choice, and that's something that I don't think you've ever been allowed to do, to vote one way or the other and make a final determination. So that's our goal here. There's no hidden agenda other than education. The way tonight's going to go is we've got 3 speakers. First speaker is a lawyer. He's going to talk a little bit about the how, the process. The second speaker is got a long background in government. He was an administrator, a county administrator for 4 different counties, and a city administrator. So he's going to let you know kind of the difference between the roles, the traditional roles of a county and the traditional roles of a city. And then our last speaker is the mayor, current mayor of Sandy Springs. Sandy Springs was the first new city in Georgia since, I believe, 1959. They were incorporated in 2005. And Mayor Paul is going to tell you a little bit about what his area was like prior to incorporation, and now 9 years later?
9 years later.
9 years later, he can let you know what it looks like today. He's an all-around good guy. I've known Bill for about 10 years, and I really appreciate his guidance, and that's why we've asked him to come up and give you an idea of the process. Please welcome Bill Riley.
But I was with Mayor Paul, and
a number of others in starting Sandy Springs, and have been a part of starting every new city since then, up into including the last one was been Brookhaven. So we've started about 7 cities since we went with the mayor and the first time out. I am a long-time litigator, lawyer, worked as a DA for a long time, was a judge for a long time. As the chief judge for the city of Atlanta, I managed a 120-person department, which was a 9-judge court. And that's when I really got into the municipal business. And that was my first entry into management of that. After that, we got to work with the legislature and the city attorney from Sandy Springs, who is the House Judiciary Chair, in developing some legislation in 2005. In 2005, to create a system whereby you could start a city. You all missed that time by a year or two. You didn't have that precept that we built into state law that could enable you to have a path towards cityhood if that's what you chose to do. You have that path at this point in time in state law thanks to the hard work of a number of legislators and a lot of other good people who have built that for you. So if you choose to do that, at this point in time, state law provides you a path out of being an unincorporated area and into being a city, and takes care of a number of those challenges that you have to switch over services. We started with Sandy Springs, and in Sandy Springs, I always like to say that we were going through a blizzard. We knew we were going somewhere, but we didn't really know where we were going. We just hoped we got to the other side, because we had promised nearly 100,000 people that we could go and deliver services to them as well as or better than the county had delivered them before. It was really very scary. It was hugely, hugely scary to do that. And the leadership with Mayor Paul and others to go and take that leap of faith and go and lead these. One city that Ivan wanted me to talk about, and I will be brief because I want you to be able to hear Mayor Paul, because he is a dynamic speaker who has a breadth of knowledge that goes well beyond mine. But the one city I want to talk about was Peachtree Corners. Now, Peachtree Corners is the second newest city in the state of Georgia. It is now the largest city in Gwinnett County. It is that part of Gwinnett County that touches DeKalb, Fulton, and Norcross, Berkeley Lake, and Duluth. It's a little chunk down there right by the river. Has about 38,000 people in it, but it's the biggest city in Gwinnett. It is a limited services city. It is a city that contracts with the county for police services, fire services, public works services. They contract for the police to do the background checks for alcohol and pawn shops and innumerable other things. And it's, a number of their court services are contracted out to the county too. The crux of why they wanted to start that city, though, was community development, planning and zoning. They wanted to determine what the future infrastructure, what the vision of their city would be, what it would look like. It has been a very successful city. They agreed to tax themselves $1 mil to run the city. That's what they agreed to. And for the first year, I believe they had about $500,000. Is that right, John? The first year they had about $500,000, but then they eventually, when all things were said and done, the millage rate for the largest city in Gwinnett County is 0 mills. It is a 0 millage rate today. They have the county taxes for the fire and police, but they do their own community development. They do public works under a contract with the county. The county does all the paving for all the roads, but they get to pick all the roads that get paved. The county does the improvements for the intersections, but they get to pick which intersections they think are the ones that are needed the worst. So they're running a full service government in combination with the county at a 0 millage rate. And that is something that nobody believed would happen. But it has happened, and it works well. And let me tell you the reason that it works well. It's because it is a cooperative agreement with the county. The county and the city work together to deliver services to a community. They're not antagonistic to each other, but they work side by side, each knowing which piece that they need to deliver services on. Just today, it was announced that the county had offered $14 million for some 218 acres, one of the largest tracts left in the city of Peachtree Corners, to buy a new park for the citizens of all of the county, but particularly for those of Peachtree Corners. Unheard of. But that's the amount of cooperation. They come to us and say, what do you want paved this year? And we go and pick a list. They come to us and say, well, how about this road improvement this year? Well, how about we do this one, and this one? Okay, we'll do that. It is really a really good way to do business when you have a cooperative agreement between your two sovereigns. And each sovereign understands what their duty is to deliver services. The mayor and council, sometimes I worry about them because they have to do all the zoning. And you know, when they're zoning, that's where it's really tough to go. But I think that the citizens of the city would rather be able to talk to their mayor and council about the zoning issues than their one county commissioner, who loves them to death, but she's just one vote. So I'm gonna stop at this point and turn it back over to Ivan, and I don't know what it is after that. I'm gonna defer to Mayor Paul because he knows the breadth of them a lot more than I do. You want to answer it now?
Yeah, well, now there's several taxes that you're paying today. You're probably not aware you're paying them. They go to other jurisdictions. That if you're municipalized, that municipal governments can collect, the counties can't. Franchise fees. Franchise fees, you know, your power lines, your phone line, your cable television, your gas lines, they go over the rights of way of your community. And the utilities pay a fee for the use of your right-of-ways. Counties can't collect them, cities can. It's a substantial amount of money. When you pay your life insurance premiums every month, you're paying an insurance tax to the state that goes to municipalities. Your money right now is going to the other municipalities because counties can't collect that. The fees that you talk about when you file for an application for an alcohol license, for a building permit. And so if you have the kind of structure that Bill's talking about, which is totally different than ours, you can operate, certain municipalities can, in that kind of situation, operate with no additional property taxes. Now that's not our model. I'll talk about that one when I get there.
Thank you, Mayor, because he does more about that than I do.
Exactly how are we going to benefit from it?
I can only tell you what's happened in other cities.
This is St. Thomas Island, Georgia.
Yes, ma'am. And it will be your opportunity to create whatever you would like to create in your city if you decide to have one. And that's the point of self-determination as you make the decision about what you want to do in determining your future and how you want to determine it. So.
And why couldn't it be that whatever it is you're trying to accomplish can be done within the governmental system framework that's set up here now? Get a committee, go to the county commissioners, go to the state legislature and tell them we want an additional representative on this county commission from St. Thomas Island, Georgia, rather than having another layer of government.
Well,
I think that goes to layers of government question, and we don't,
taxes?
ma'am,
Yes.
we're respectful for you, please be respectful for us. There's obviously more debate that needs to go on, and it's a debate that's both internal and external, lots of questions to come. One of the questions that we keep hearing over and over again is layers of government, and Mr. Paul will address that. I'll ask him to address that. But let's be respectful of everyone. I understand that there is concerns. Of course there's concern. Anytime there's something new, there's a concern. But that should not stop the debate, nor should it eventually stop the citizens' ability to vote on whether or not they wish to incorporate. And that's all we're asking for, is to give the people the right to vote. That's it.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. Versus making this like Civics 101, I need to survey some of you to see where you came from. How many people here moved here from a northeastern or New England state? Okay. How many people Midwestern? Western? Southern? Okay. There's different types of government that exist at the county level. A lot of people don't even know it, but exist at the county level for county government. I was county administrator for 4 counties, one in Minnesota, one in Maryland, one in South Carolina, one in Pennsylvania. One in Pennsylvania was known as not a full-service county. Okay? When they say not a full-service county, they run a form of government and a form of governance that may be similar to what exists here in Georgia or South Carolina or Alabama, not Louisiana, because Louisiana is a whole other ballgame. All right, they don't even have counties in Louisiana. They call them parishes, as we all know. In those non-full-service counties, especially the northeastern model, they normally run courts, court-related activities, jails, in some states, prisons, because you can be sentenced to a county facility in some states for 1 day short of 5 years. So they're not detention centers like you see in the South. And they also run rather large social service programs there. The cities don't run them, the counties do. Everything from mental health, mental retardation, to family and youth services, et cetera, that are social services. A lot of that's state and federal pass-through dollars. And many of them run nursing homes. It is very rare that you see that model used in the South. Now, when I say the South, Mason-Dixon line, you'll see some of it in Maryland, you'll see some of it in Northern Virginia, but from that point on, you don't see that. And also, in all of those areas that I just discussed, the North, specifically in the northern part of the South, it's very difficult to find unincorporated county land. Okay, you have a lot of unincorporated county land in the South. In South Carolina, not so much so anymore, North Carolina, but South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi. You'll find a lot of unincorporated county land. You'll find some in Florida, but only some. Here's where the differences in services occur. What happens in these full-service counties, counties provide municipal-type services in the South. They've gotten away from that in the North. They've gotten almost away from it completely in the Midwest, and especially the upper Midwest. On the West Coast, they've gotten away from it. The place that exists is the South, for some reason. And I think it's economics, and that's not a negative statement, that's an observation. There's been a massive movement to all of the southern states because the weather's great. So people want to come here and live here. Some of these people come here and want to live here, and they are used to one form of government. They now see another form of government. You'll see a county vehicle doing road services. You'd never see that in the North. And you wouldn't see it in parts of the upper Midwest either, or in the West Coast. You'll see either state or city trucks. Almost to the geographic entity, you won't see any community development services offered by counties in other parts of the United States except the South. Counties still do community services. I was the county administrator of Beaufort County, South Carolina. We still did planning and zoning for unincorporated county land. You are unincorporated county land in Georgia, so your planning and zoning is done by the services. In the northern metro area of Atlanta, the 7 cities that formed almost exclusively formed over land use issues, and in some instances it was service issues from a county that was doing a very poor job in providing services, specifically police services and community development services. You have a very different atmosphere here. It's not the same. So I'm not criticizing Glenn County. Counties and cities are 2 different animals. Creating something new, what are the advantages? Money, lots of money. None of the new cities in the north have ever raised taxes, ever, since their inception. As a matter of fact, Johns Creek, and I was the Johns Creek city manager, I was their first city manager up until March of 2014. Johns Creek never raised taxes. As a matter of fact, never even got to the millage cap rate that was set by the legislature. They are below that millage cap rate. New entities don't have unfunded liabilities. Because of the differences in the way governments are constructed, let's take a look at Detroit, which is a city, okay? Detroit is a city. Detroit has $1 billion in unfunded liabilities. What are their unfunded liabilities? Pensions and healthcare benefits that they all offer upon retirement, okay? And sadly, so do many of the southern counties. So they all have unfunded liabilities. It's a question of how deep the unfunded liability is. Staffing patterns, when you look at counties that offer urban services, cities that offer urban services, especially the newer ones, staffing patterns are different because it was a rethinking of government. The only reason I took the job as a city manager in Johns Creek was I was the first employee. So any mistakes that were made, I only had one direction in which I could point. But Johns Creek, Sandy Springs is a good example too. Actually, Johns Creek is, I think, 1 percentage point better than Sandy Springs, so I'm going to rub it in a little. Is the level of staff to citizen ratio. There's 82,000 citizens in Johns Creek. There's 234 employees, including 34 outsourced employees. And I believe Sandy Springs is 1 or 2 percentage points away from that model. And so are the rest of the cities. We're all within 5% of each other. It's just an opportunity to do something new, and it's an opportunity to do it the right way versus the wrong way. And that's not critical of anyone except American governance is, over the last 40 years, has kind of gotten out of hand, especially in terms of unfunded liabilities. There are many, many cities and counties throughout the United States that are facing bankruptcy. I believe we had 78 cities go bankrupt this past year, file for bankruptcy. Most people don't know about it. Just read the Wall Street Journal. It's a sad story, but something to avoid. And, you know, we're Americans. We rethink government all the time. We're supposed to rethink government. We're supposed to be brave, refreshed people. And when you look at new models versus old models, you can make the same mistakes, or you could do something different. You could be much more positive and do something that's more dynamic. But once again, the difference between the two models are municipal services being offered by counties, in some places non-municipal services being offered by counties, and then municipal services being offered by your cities or counties. And once again, it's all about leadership and governance and what you put together for your model as to whether it'll work or not. The key is thinking tight, I believe, anyway, in terms of what you do and thinking what fits. And that's why I believe planning zoning issues probably are the most predominant issues for an area like this. I came from Beaufort County. You guys are Hilton Head. Only Hilton Head was 30 years ago. You're Hilton Head now. That's simple. Thank you.
Grants.gov, which lists thousands of federal grants. We've done extremely well. And not only with just federal, but with state. When we bought a new park, we were able to get money from the state of Georgia, from the Land Conservation Trust. We work with a lot of private foundations. We got money from the Trust for Public Lands to buy parkland. So we have a very aggressive approach to going out and getting grants. In fact, we got a lot more grants today because we're focused on it than we ever got when we were unincorporated, because that was spread out. We are a CDBG city. We automatically qualify if you're 55,000 population or above. They've moved that now to what, 80?
50 and a 50 and above. Still
So
50.
anyway, and we get those revenues every year. In fact, I'll tell you my background in just a moment. I ran the CDBG program at the federal level, so I know where the money is, and I know how to go get it. So.
Talk a little bit about the partnership with the Georgia Department of Transportation.
A lot of the grant dollars that came through are pass-through dollars. They come through the state, and in both the instance of Sandy Springs at Johns Creek, Milton, Dunwoody, Brookhaven, not Peachtree Corners, because Peachtree Corners is a different story. They probably got about 4 times what their areas normally received in the past in terms of transportation money. Because what was happening with us was the counties weren't pouring the money back in. They were taking the money out. We had a lot of wealthy ad valorem taxes, property taxes that were being pushed to the county, to downtown Atlanta, and it wasn't coming back. So we had not just traffic backup, we had traffic disasters. As a matter of fact, if you build it, they will come. We still have disasters. And it's the Atlanta metro area. But we've gotten, on the whole, about 4 to 5 times more money back in since incorporation, because we've got our own people pleading for that money, not somebody pleading for a larger entity. Caesar was asking, some people don't understand what community development is. Community development is the name or the nomenclature that local government, county as well as city or municipal government, give to that part of their function in their budget that focuses on land use issues. That's planning, zoning, code enforcement, engineering that accompanies saying, and then a coordination between the planning and zoning people and the transportation people and public works over here. And it's essentially that part of the government that you go to for, okay, I want to come in and build 850 multifamily apartment units. And everyone just grimaces when you hear that, but that's the housing of the future. In the new cities, they've done some interesting things. We've done everything on a cost reimbursement basis in terms of inspections and code, etc. None of those people in Johns Creek, I believe Sandy Springs is following the same model now. None of those people are government employees. They're all private sector employees, and they pay us 20% of what they make. It's kind of slick.
Basically, what that also does is it takes the cost burden off of the citizens and puts it back on the developer, quite honestly. Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Listen to that resume. I sound like one sick puppy, don't I? You know, I have wandered in and out of public service since I was 24 years old. I was first elected, and I come in, I go. And I know my role tonight, and I'm going to wander, and I will burn a lot of oxygen. And Ivan is supposed to throw a rock at me when I burned up all the oxygen I'm allowed to burn. And I'm not here to advocate what you do. But it's going to sound like it because I'm so excited about what we've been able to accomplish in our community that it will sound like I'm trying to talk you into something. And I'm not. Because this is a very personal decision that each of you have to make about what the future of your community, what you want it to look like. What do you want this place to look like 15 years from now? I told some people earlier tonight, in making decisions about our community, I care what my citizens think. I deeply care. Because they're going to stop me in Kroger. They're going to stop me at church. Two of them stopped me on the treadmill this morning with earplugs in that they totally ignored and forced me to take out so they could talk to me. And that's one of the great things about our community, because all of the decision makers live in our community. When we make a decision about Sandy Springs, we have to deal with it. Not only do we have to deal with you, we have to deal with the consequences, because we live there every day. If we do something, if we vote to approve an apartment complex and it adds more cars to the roads, well, I got to sit in the traffic too. I have asked for one thing as mayor, and they have refused to give it to me: the remote control to the red lights. They say they don't give that to first-term mayors. I am running for re-election. I want it. So we have to live with the consequences of our decision. I can't make a decision here knowing it's going to affect the other side and I never have to deal with it. We started trying to create, I hope you can hear. I hope I'm loud enough. I have a little bit of Baptist preacher in me. I went to Stanford University, lived with 8 of us, lived together. Some were ministerial students. So I acquired the capability in school. I tell you, I was the guy who bought all the liquor for the Baptist preachers. But anyway, we had, in Fulton County, 7 county commissioners. We had one, which was ours. He's a good guy. He's been in office 40 years. We liked him. He did a good job for us, except for when it came time to decide how they were going to grow, what land use they were going to approve, what they were going to put where. And he always voted right. Every time he voted right. There were those other 5 people that imposed all those things on our community. And they're nice people. I get along with them fine. But it took us 35 years to become a city, because we were the cash cow for the county. We were the folks who paid the bills, and then they took the money and they went elsewhere with it. And you know what? We didn't have a problem with that. Like you, we were an affluent community, but we cared about our community. We cared about poor people. We cared about everybody else. We needed to maintain our fair share. We needed to help people and pay for that. We needed to pay for Grady Hospital. We needed to pay for community and health services for low-income folks. But all the money was going away, and we couldn't get a road paved. We couldn't get a sidewalk built. We couldn't get stormwater fixed. We couldn't get new parks. And so, and you know what the biggest thing in Sandy Springs is today? The biggest problem I have to deal with is people coming up to me, yanking those things out of my ears while I'm on the treadmill, saying, "Where's my sidewalk?" 9 years ago, nobody would have ever asked that question, because nobody was getting a sidewalk. Nobody was getting a road paved. Nobody was getting stormwater fixed. And so we just wanted a little bit of the money that we were paying to stay home to fix some of those problems that were part of our community. So we started trying to become a city. It took us 35 years. Had a little lady by the name of Eva Galambos. Any of you from the Metro Atlanta area probably heard that name. She is the meanest, toughest lady I know. When I was in the Senate, I would carry the legislation to incorporate the city, and we'd lose every year. And then I'd get in bed about 3 o'clock in the morning, and by 7 the phone's ringing. It was Eva. "All right, what do we got to do to get ready for next year?" "Eva, I haven't even recovered from this year yet. Can I at least have a day or two?" But she was tenacious and never gave in, because she believed in our community. And let me tell you, you heard a little bit about my background. I ran community planning and development for the whole country. I was acting assistant secretary for community planning and development at the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development under Jack Kemp. And so I saw all the mistakes that cities made. I saw all the things that cities did well, and there's no panacea. There is no magic wand that's going to solve all of your problems. And if you ever become a city, the day will come when you will be as mad at the city council and the mayor as you ever were at the commission. I have a city of 100,000 people. And on every issue, we have at least 120,000 opinions. Because everybody in our community, we get wonderful people, but some of them, at least 20% of them, have two opinions about the same issue. And I have to hear both of them. So when you make decisions, you're going to upset somebody. Well, one of the great things, as I said, when I'm at the grocery store, my wife says, go get some milk. That is the scariest trip I take nowadays, because I'm going to run into somebody who's going to see me and talk to me about their problem. And I can't solve everybody's problem. But you know what? I can solve a lot of them. And sometimes they just want somebody to listen to them. They know the problem can't be fixed, not the way they want to fix it. But they at least got somebody that will listen to them and go back and try. And so that's the biggest role I play, is just to help. And when people ask me, being a mayor, and you've held a lot of jobs, every day, what's the difference? What's the great benefit? Every day I go home, I can look back and say, there were 2 or 3 things I did to help somebody today that made a difference. And you do that 365 days out of the year. After a while, things happen. Now let me tell you what we've done. As I said, nobody asked for sidewalks 9 years ago because it wasn't going to happen. Nobody asked for their street to be repaved because it was not going to happen. You know how much we spend this year? This year we will spend, our budget's about $80 million. We'll spend about $20 million on infrastructure. $20 million, city of 100,000. Fulton County, a county of almost 1 million people. You know what their budget for roads and streets are this year? $1 million. $1 million. Now, I'm not down here to criticize counties because I work with them. I like counties. There's a role for counties. But in the counties, what John didn't tell you is that in counties, and this is the way it is in all government, everything kind of goes down to the lowest common denominator. Because you got to kind of, if you're doing things right, you got to treat everybody pretty much the same. So if you got a very broad population, your lowest common denominator tends to get a little low. In a community of which is somewhat homogeneous and has similar ideas and backgrounds and ideas and aspirations for the community, your denominator goes up a little bit. And that makes a difference in the quality of service. Now, when Sandy Street started, we started in December of 2005, which is a great date. But there was one problem with it. We didn't get any tax revenue until October of the next year. We had to operate for 10 months with no revenue. Well, necessity being the mother of invention, we sat down and said, well, how do we do that? And we figured out that we needed somebody else's pocketbook. And so what we did was sit down and figure out that we needed the private sector to help us. So we've gotten attention, global attention, about this new model of service delivery that a lot of these new cities that Bill Riley was telling you about have adopted, which is, and there's variations of it. We're still pretty much, with the exception of police and fire, we are 100% private sector employees. When I was elected I went up to the Kennedy School at Harvard University. For a boy from Birmingham, Alabama, that was tall cotton. And I'm sitting there talking to the other mayors, and they're all interested in fact, one mayor, the mayor of Mesa, Arizona, knew more about my city than I did. He'd studied us, because the Goldwater Institute had wore him out, saying, why aren't you more like Sandy Springs? He'd studied us from one end to the other. He knew more about it than I did. And the mayor, we were sitting there talking one morning, and the mayor, and you hear this in government, the mayor said, we try to run our city like a business. And I said, that's the difference between your city and my city. In my city, a business runs our city. And the light went on. Because you can't run a government like a business. It's not really a profit motive to make you do better. In ours, we were able to inject the profit motive in, and it's made a huge difference. Let me tell you the difference. I've been doing elections all my life. Every mayor of Sandy Springs who's run in support of our model of government has won with more than 80% of the vote. That's how popular it is. 80% of the vote. First year we ran a couple of years of operation, we ran a surplus. So we asked the citizens, do you want the money back? Or do you want us to keep putting money into sidewalks and streets and storm sewer parks? 65% of the citizens told us, keep the money, keep doing what you're doing. And where does that happen in government? This past, about 2 months ago, we voted to spend $200 million of taxpayer money on a new government center, city center, performing arts center. That's 2.5 times of our annual budget. You know how many people showed up to watch us vote on that? 15. And there wasn't a single voice against it. Why? Because they trusted us. They knew that we had a form of government that they were engaged in, because we did this all in public. When we got to a point of having a key decision on these projects, I'd get called in. I'd give my opinion. Within 48 hours, we brought the council in, and then we talked to them and briefed them on it. And within 72 hours after that, we had a meeting like this, and we laid it out there. People knew what we were doing. They understood what we were doing. 66.7% of the folks approved of what we were doing. Why? Because they knew us. We were there. They talked to us. They got an opportunity to ask us questions. We were able to explain it all. And when we explained it, they said, all right, we're supportive of that. Go to it. You know, and so our private sector model, we had, this week, we had a group in from Japan. We had a group in from Norway. We've had folks in from France, China. Our Mayor Pro Tem went to the People's Hall of China, which put on national TV. People's Hall of China is the ground zero of the communist world. And they put him on national television talking about our private sector service delivery model. We've had 4 or 5 delegations from China, Japan, Norway, France, even had Al Jazeera come to town. Nobody would interview with them. I'm the stupid one. I said, I'll talk to them. Bring them on. So Al Jazeera comes in, and they're talking to me about our private sector model of service delivery. And we had a nice little conversation. Finally gets to the point of the question. He said, you know, I was councilman then. I said, you know, Councilman Paul, are you aware that your contractors are making a profit? I said, yeah. Not only are they making a profit, I hope they're making a good profit. He said, why is that? I said, if they're making enough money on this deal, then they're going to want to hold on to that contract. And to hold on to that contract, they know they got to make 100,000 people pretty happy. So they're delivering a high quality of service. And our folks are getting a higher level of service than they get because they know that that contract's going to be rebid in 5 years. So they come to work every day fighting for their jobs. Because they want to stay there. Because we're paying them pretty good. They're making a profit. And so Al Jazeera that was just a total foreign concept to them. But that's how I got elected with 80%. That's how my predecessors, because people are happy. They don't mind paying for service if they're getting service. It's when you're paying for it, you don't get it when you get upset. So, as I say, this is not going to solve everybody's problem. If you elect this gentleman right here, mayor and council member, you're going to be upset with him at some point. He's going to make a decision you don't like. It's when I told him when I got elected. I told him election night, I'm as popular tonight as I'll ever be. Tomorrow I start disappointing people. And that's been pretty true. Now let me tell you, what does the mayor do? in a city that's rapidly growing, a community like yours where people want to come. We got the same thing in Sandy Springs. People want to come there. And guess what? We want them to come. Because the city, I spent time with the mayor of Youngstown, Ohio, with Rochester, New York, Lawrence, Massachusetts. Mayor of Lawrence, Massachusetts stood up in front of all the other mayors, tears streaming down his face. Can you please, please tell me how to create jobs for my people? Heartbreaking. We're fortunate. I'll trade my problems with traffic and growth any day for a community that's got those kind of problems. I'd rather have the kind of problems that we face. Because if you're not growing, you're dying. The question is, what kind of growth? What do you want this community to be 15 years from now? As I've told folks in Sandy Springs, I do care about what you think. Because I don't have to put up with it. I compete there. Do you know what I care more about? I care more about what my grandchildren are going to say looking back 50 years from now. And are they going to say, hey, Papa, you did a pretty good job? Are they going to say, what were you thinking? Dr. Phil, I guess. And that's it. You got to decide what it is you want to create here. You're the stewards of an amazing resource. You're the folks who got to decide how it's going to be dealt with. You're the ones who've got to decide what it's going to be. You're the ones who've got to decide whether this is the way to do it or there's something else. There's no easy solution. There's no magic wand, no remote control. It's hard work. You have to sit down and talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends, talk to people you don't know, talk to people you hate, talk to people that totally disagree with you, and try and work it out. That's what communities do to be successful. And so all I can tell you is, we've had a blast. Can you tell? I've had fun. I've had all these jobs that I've told you about. This is the most fun I've had. Because I go home every night. I'm taking 35 years of my life working at the federal, state, local level. You ask the question where the money is. I know where the money is. I've been there. I know where they hide it. I know how to get it. And I'm doing it. But you got it. It's hard work. It's not easy. But isn't it more fun to do that? To think about what this island can become? And your role in being able to make it happen? I get excited about that. I get passionate about that. Because I care about our community, what it went through for 35 years. We were affluent enough that they could have all left and gone somewhere. And I don't know why they didn't. Because they were not only neglected by their county. This is totally, I think Glenn County does a really good job from everything I know. A good county government. Our folks, we were just, they should have left and gone away. But there was a core group there who believed in that community, believed there was something worth preserving, something that they sat there and went through hell for 35 years till they finally got control of it. There's this line in the movie Patton when Bastogne is surrounded and General McAuliffe is there and he sent when the Germans asked for surrender and he said nuts. Remember this line Patton said? A man that eloquent must be saved. A community as resilient as ours deserves only the best. And I try to get up every morning thinking about what can I do to give them the best. And that's all we should aspire to. That's all you should expect. And you're the only folks who can make that decision. Here endeth the lesson. Thank you.